we are with Paul Feig. Hi.
Hey, Clemence, how are you?
Good, thank you. Thank you so much for this interview.
Thank you for all your support of this movie from day one. I really appreciate it.
Yes, we'll talk about that in a minute. My first question is regarding your relation to Ghostbusters. Can you tell us when you first came familiar with the story, like your most important memory of it?
Yeah, I was in film school at the time, and my friends and I went opening night because we're such fans of Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis and Ivan Reitman. We loved his movies. But I didn't know much about it. We saw one trailer, because this is before the internet where you saw everything before a movie comes out. And we just sat there and just couldn't believe how great it was. And I couldn't believe how the audience was just going crazy. We were all like laughing. Like I haven't heard an audience laugh like that ever, I don't think. And just was so impressed with the idea and the scope of it that I remember leaving the theater going like, wow, I wish I could make a comedy like that. And then weirdly, I made that exact comedy.
Well, is that a challenge to make a comedy with a serious topic, like a scary topic, like ghosts?
Well, you have to be careful that you guard the tone. But I like to do that. I like to go into genres. When I did Spy, that was, you have to walk a razor's edge, because if it's too silly, then you don't buy into it. But I like that. I love when there's a story with big stakes, that then the people within it are like us and how they react to it. That's where the comedy comes from, but you need to keep the threat real.
I have the feeling that taking on a franchise that already has a really strong fan base is a challenge, no matter what you're going to do with it. Yeah. Do you agree with that?
Oh yeah, very much so. I mean, people are very passionate about this property, as they are about any great movie, and I completely understand that. I mean, if I wasn't doing this movie, I'd be very nervous about it too. So all I know is okay, I know I'm going to hopefully do a good job. I know what I want to do with it, and it's out of love for the original property, and also out of really wanting to give people the same great experience I had when I saw it the first time.
You definitely succeeded in doing that, because I've seen the movie and
did you like it?
I absolutely loved it.
Oh, I'm so happy. Thank you.
The really interesting thing is you've taken this story and written it for female characters, but you have the audacity to call this an action movie, like not a chick flick or rom-com or something like this. I mean, the only way you could enrage sexist people even more would be by openly calling Ghostbusters a feminist movie. Yeah. So I guess my question is, would you call Ghostbusters a feminist action movie?
Well, I mean, for me, it's about these four people who are great. And when I looked at the original film, the idea of the original film is so great, but the reason it worked so well is those four guys and the cast around them were so good. And so going into this is like, well, I need to get a dream team of people for this. And I work with the funniest women on the planet. And it was like, well, this is a no-brainer. Let's have these four women in there. So that was kind of the only real thought that went into it, other than I am frustrated by the fact that women don't get to have great roles in movies, and especially in big tentpole summer films. Outside of like The Hunger Games and those kind of things, which is great, but in comedy especially, women don't get those lead roles. And I do want to right that wrong. And so, if that's a cause, call it a cause, but at the same time, I just want funny women to get the roles that funny men have gotten for years and years.
Again, you've really succeeded in doing that. I've seen Spy and I loved it. And I have to say, when I first saw the trailer or just the posters, I was kind of, okay, another movie where like the big girl is going to be like the clown of
falling down. Yeah, exactly.
And spoiler alert, no, she's not.
Yes.
So, and I've seen a shift, I guess, in movies recently where women tend to get more deep characters. Like in Ghostbusters, you have really backup stories, and men get the really heavily stereotyped roles.
Right.
Am I a bad person because I think it's funny to make fun of the white straight dude?
No, I'm the same way, because the pendulum swings both ways, and and the pendulum has been over here, weighted for men for so long. And I have to laugh because there's a lot of the men's rights activists get on me like, well, you're being sexist. It's like, you can't say that. It's like, if a group of people have been oppressed forever, then the first few times they get to have their own thing, you can't go, well, see, that's not fair. It's like, no, everybody, let's just let it go this way, and then eventually it'll come right into the center.
Is it still controversial to do this in 2016, to say that women deserve more screen time?
I didn't think it would be, and for some reason it does seem to be for a section of the population. There are plenty of people who are just worried and nervous that we're touching a classic, and that I'm fine. And I've never called those people sexist, and that tends in the press, it tends to get painted that way, and I never say that. But there is a small group of people, of men, who have a real problem with this, and I just think that shows why it's 2016 and we haven't solved this yet, because that old way of thinking gets dragged along like an anchor behind people, and I'm trying to cut the chain and leave the anchor behind.
If you were to give a masterclass on how to build a decent female character in a comedy, what's the main advice you would give to aspiring writers?
The main advice is to make them a real person, and what happens is you always hear, when people want good roles for actresses, they always say strong female characters. I don't like that term, because that to me says that's a one-dimensional character who's strong and, has no foibles. And it's like, especially for comedy, that who's less interesting than somebody who does the right thing all the time and who is just brave and all that. You need to portray people with all their sides, weak and strong and scared and brave and and silly and able to look bad and able to look good. Just like, look at the men's roles. Men get to play everything. And for me, as a man, since I am a guy who writes this stuff, I also empower all the women around me, my producing partner, Jesse Henderson, and any of the actors I'm working with, and Katie Dippold, who wrote this with me, and call me on stuff, because I'll come up with a guy joke as much as anybody else will, and they're like, no, we wouldn't do that. Instead of me going like, no, hey, how dare you? It's like, oh, sorry, how would you do this real way? So then you get this three-dimensional character that's, not a stereotype.
I see you promote diversity in the movie industry as a mean to make it better. Like it's not a pain to do that.
I mean it should be. I mean we need total parity among men and women in all just cultures and diversity and races. It has to be reflective of what our population is, what the population of the world is, and that's what's happening. It's not been representative for so long.
So I have a really important question. Will there be a sequel? Please make a sequel.
Thank you so much. We have to see how this one goes. So I would never dare to say, yes, we're going right in. But if it goes well and people show up and love it, then who knows?
Okay. Be sure to reach out to us if you need a crowdfunding campaign to finance the next one.
Okay.
Because we're in.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. So I can't thank you enough for all the support you've shown. And I'm so happy you liked the movie.
Well, thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Oh, thank you. You too. Thanks for the great questions.
Life was great. Life was... That sounded so fake. I went up, at the end, life's great. I'm fine. You always know someone's lying if they, go really high.